All right. Thanks for tuning in live on Proline TV, part of the Our Lads Football Network. Apologize as we are a few minutes late from our scheduled 6 o'clock Eastern start time. Gary Ferman is a little bit tied up. He had a very important conference call with the team, and that was scheduled. Matter of fact, we were supposed to do the interview a couple hours ago, so we backed it up. Unfortunately, Gary is still a little bit behind, so hopefully we will hook up with him within the next few minutes, and we'll be able to pop him up here and talk to him about the game, because last week we had the opportunity to speak with Owen Buchanan from TexAgs.com, covering the Texas A&M Aggies. He's been doing that for a long time. He's our official Aggie insider, and Olin does a great job. You could check that out. There's a link in the description of this video. If you're a Miami Hurricane fan, I'm sure many of you are that are watching this video. If you want to find out more about Texas A&M, then check out that video because we went over key players to keep an eye on, just as I was hoping to do here today and still hoping with Gary. So that's what we're going to do, and maybe give back to the Texas A&M fans who might want to check it out and find out what they're looking forward to with the game on Saturday at 12. Also get Gary's perspective, like I did with Olin, on what it would take for the Miami Hurricanes to win a national championship, not just win on Saturday at Texas A&M, which is going to be, I think, just as tough as any game that Miami would play in this tournament, because it's a road game, and Texas A&M is one of the best teams in college football. This is an SEC road game, and keep in mind, Texas A&M going into the final regular season game was an undefeated team. And I don't know where they'd be right now. Could they be the second-ranked team in the country if they would have won that game against Texas? I think there are too many people, of course, analysts and so forth, that are penalizing Texas A&M for that loss too much. And I get that they do not have as tough of a schedule as some other teams in the SEC, but it is still an SEC schedule. And to expect any SEC team to run the table and not slip up once, I'm sorry, but I just think that's asking for too much nowadays. Now, if this was 3, 4, 5 years ago, that's a completely different story. There were dominant, elite, all-time programs, all-time football teams from their respective programs. And that's just not going to be the case anymore. It's not. I mean, sure, you could say, well, this is their best team ever. That's a little bit different. You know, of course, what I'm saying. But for the Alabamas of the world, especially, and the Ohio States, Georgias, all you have to do is match them up with the teams from just a couple of years ago. And I'm sorry, but those teams from just 3 or 4 years ago would be a heavy favorite in the matchup with this year's version. And I'm okay with that. I'm not trying to throw that out there as some sort of a negative deal. Now, maybe the fans at Georgia and Alabama and and Ohio State, maybe even, maybe not Ohio State, because they've actually benefited big time with the transfer portal. So let's not include Ohio State. But you get what I'm saying. Alabama, Georgia specifically, because they were the dominant SEC teams. They were the two of the dominant college football teams for the longest time, ever since Saban was there, ever since Smart was there. And they were beneficial. It was benefiting them as a program to be able to recruit first team, second team, third team, 4 stars and 5 stars. And because of that, anytime there were injuries, that's okay. We got another 4 or 5 star off the bench. Well, I don't want to say 5 star, but it did happen. Not every 5 star started, especially right away. Oh, we got an injury. Okay, another 4 star. Oh, another. Okay. Oh, we're 3 deep injuries. Oh, that's okay. With another 4 star in there. And that is how and why those teams were so dominant. And that's just the way college football was for a very long time. And again, just specifically those 2 teams over the last, 10, 20 years with those coaches, as I mentioned. Now everything has changed. And now any team can win a national championship. And don't let anybody fool you to think that that's not the case. This is not the way it was just a couple of years ago. So when you look at teams like Indiana and Ohio State, any team that, whether it's this season, last season, next season, any of these teams that go into the playoffs as the top team is not miles ahead. They're not even a gap ahead of 8 teams in these playoffs. Matter of fact, I'm going to try to pop up the bracket here. Let me see if I can get it up here. Let's see. Where's the bracket? Let's pop up the bracket because I want to go over. Unfortunately, these brackets. I'm trying to get the right one because I hate the fact that when you try to pop up these brackets on the screen, they don't fit. Okay, here we go. I think that, see, it doesn't even fit there. I can't get that to fit. I could probably shrink it, but then you can't see it. All right, I think there you go. That'll work. Oh wait, where am I? You can't see anything yet. My bad. Of course, it's my bad. I'm the one doing it. Don't you love that? But that's one of my pet peeves when you get the players. I see more of this in the last 10 or 15 years, like players saying it's my bad. It's like, no fucking shit, it's your bad. You're the one who dropped the pass, dickhead. What is that supposed to mean? We're supposed to give you some kudos for saying it's my bad. We're not letting you off the hook. You dropped the pass, dumbass. Okay. So here is the bracket. All right. Here are the teams that can win the national championship. Oregon, Texas Tech, Alabama, Oklahoma, Indiana, Ole Miss, Georgia, Ohio State, Texas A&M, Miami. Okay, that was easy, right? All I had to do was say all the Power 4 teams. But if I want to be tougher, and if I want to just give you my honest opinion on whether or not I think there are teams that, I don't see it though. Okay, I'll do that. Alabama, we're going to knock them out. I will knock Oklahoma out as well. And that's it. That's it. And that's good for the bracket because the number one team gets to play, just so happens, and the teams you're supposed to play, which are the teams that are the most vulnerable, and that's how it's set up. All right. So again, you got Indiana, Alabama, Oklahoma, and look, this does not mean that I think that Indiana will cakewalk the winner of this game. And I actually am going to go with Oklahoma in this one. But I do think Oklahoma has a chance to beat Indiana. I do. And I think, and the reason Oklahoma has a chance to beat Indiana is because Oklahoma has just as good, if not better, a defense than Indiana has. Okay, so that's the thing. See, Alabama, they've got a good defense. They've got a top-rate quarterback. They've got some good receivers. I don't know if they have any elite receivers. I'm not sure they have an elite quarterback. And I do know they don't have an elite running back. They have no running game, Alabama. And that's why the Oklahoma matchup is a bad matchup for Alabama. Because Oklahoma is we're a really good defensive team. So you got to work for everything against our defense. You better have a balanced attack to have success, high success against us. And Alabama has not shown that. Now, they did out yardage the hell out of Oklahoma in their last matchup, but keep in mind that was in Alabama. And if it wasn't for that win by Oklahoma at Alabama, then Oklahoma wouldn't even have made the tournament. But that's exactly what happened. So I'm looking at an Oklahoma team that has beaten Alabama. They beat them last year. They held them to 3 points last year. And then they wind up beating them at Alabama this year. So I think that is a bad matchup for Alabama. And, Mateer is now going to be as healthy as he's going to be based on the time now that he's been back since the injury. I don't see the player that I saw earlier in the season before the injury. So I do wonder if that is going to get better. It's one of those deals where it's just time and so forth. It just needs to heal and all that kind of stuff. But if you're an Oklahoma fan, you surely hope so. And it's been a few more weeks, so that'll help. But they do still have a quarterback that if he can go out there and if he can play a little bit, if not a lot, like he played earlier in the season, it can give Indiana a lot of trouble. Again, they've got the defense. Indiana is not going to march up and down the field against them. Look, if they do, then Indiana is going to be really tough to beat. I just don't think that that's the case. I don't look at Indiana as some sort of major scary team, top ranked going into the playoffs that everybody needs to be afraid of. I mean, a lot of people felt that they were outplayed by Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. Say what you want about the Penn State game. I mean, that wasn't a very good Penn State team, and it needed a last-minute touchdown drive and a miraculous touchdown catch in order to beat Penn State and remain undefeated. They also had a close win at Iowa and a good win on the road at Oregon. So they definitely have shown that there are some, there are some parts of their team that are not invincible. And so you get an undefeated team that will now go into the postseason and have to play a really good team every week they play them. So basically you got Indiana's going to win against Alabama, Oklahoma. Then they've got to beat potentially Texas Tech, Oregon again. Then that just gets them to the championship game. And who knows, maybe they have to beat Ohio State again, or it could be Miami or Texas A&M or Georgia. And who knows about Ole Miss? Nobody knows about Ole Miss. But as far as Miami and Texas A&M, which is what we were going to do here with Gary, the fact is that Miami, just like I was saying with Oklahoma and Alabama, and even more so with these two teams, I really think Ohio State's getting the short end of the stick here. The best matchup for, like, if I was looking at the board and I was a team, if I get my choice, if I'm Indiana, if I have my choice, I'm staying right where I am. If I'm the number 2 team like Ohio State and I have my choice, it is definitely not Miami, Texas A&M winner. I'm going either Ole Miss or Oregon. Okay. Knowing that there's a possibility that if there's an upset, wow, look at that. Look at a big bonus I get. But chances are there won't be. And with Oregon and Ole Miss, I firmly believe that Miami and Texas A&M, whoever wins this game, will be a tougher opponent than the teams that have to beat the group of 5 teams. So, hey, you know what? I'm not feeling sorry for Ohio State, but that's what Ohio State has to look forward to. And with Miami, you're talking about studs on defense. You're talking about an experienced quarterback. You could say what you want about, Beck's issues and things of that nature, but hey, it's pretty. Look, the fact is the kid has been in a lot of big games, and that's going to be really important at this time of season, because you're looking around here, even Oregon, they've got they're the guys that have taken over for the Dylan Gabriels of the world and so forth. You've got a first-year starter in his, I think, 3rd year in college football, but he's never started an entire season before Dante Moore. You have your true freshman wide receiver is your best wide receiver, and your true freshman running back is your best running back. I mean, that is a lot of inexperience in big playoff games, and that's just too much in my mind. That's why I'm definitely on the side of Texas Tech there. But down here, nobody knows what to expect from Ole Miss. They could look at this as an opportunity, us against the world. Everybody thinks that we're going to just be out, maybe even Tulane, that we're just not even going to show up, because this is Lane Kiffin's team, and without Lane Kiffin, we can't do anything. And will that motivate Ole Miss to go on a little bit of a run? Can they win a championship? I don't think so. I mean, when I look at the long shots, my top 3 long shots, I'm looking at Texas A&M, Miami, and Ole Miss. Ole Miss is definitely 3rd. They're between 20 and 25 to 1 to win the national championship. And I definitely think that that's worth doing. In the past, again, just a few years ago, you would get a team, even in a 4-team playoff, that would be, 15 to 1 at the most, or 12 to 1, but you'd be throwing your money away. In reality, for the most part, for that 4th team. Even in the 4-team playoffs, like 3 or 4 years ago, whoever that 4th team was, for the most part, usually was a team, like even when TCU upset Michigan, and went to the national championship game, that was like one of those teams, and they miraculously won a playoff game against Michigan that year, and then the very next game against Georgia got annihilated. So again, it's always that fourth team even had no chance, but now that's a completely different deal. So Texas A&M, Miami, Ole Miss, I think they're excellent long shot opportunities. And I just think that Miami, Texas A&M, the situation with them is going to be this. It's going to be the best game of the first round. There is no doubt about that. And whoever wins that game is going to come off a really good win. They're going to be coming off the best win of the first round. They're then going to, and it really doesn't matter who it is, but they're then going to play Ohio State. Okay. It'll be neutral, but they're going to play Ohio State. And you just got to look at it this way. If either one of those teams can beat Ohio State, which I believe they can, at that point, they will move on to the semifinals. And there will be no doubt that if they can beat Ohio State in the quarters, they can beat anybody. So that's how you got to look at it if you're Texas A&M and Miami, is if we beat a really good team in this first round and then beat Ohio State, we can beat anybody. There's no reason to think then in the semifinals that we can't win a national championship. And at 20, 25 to 1, whatever you can get Miami or Texas A&M right now at, I did it, and I think you should too. That would be my advice. Again, Ole Miss is just kind of like I'll throw it in there just in case kind of deal. But the Texas A&M winner, I'm going to be sitting fine. Whoever wins, I'm going to have money on, and it's for me. That's what I'm looking at. I'm saying, man, if we could just beat Ohio State, I'm going to feel pretty good going into the semifinal round. I don't care if it's Georgia. I know Georgia's a really tough program, and I get that, but you're still looking at a program that's 5-6 to 1 to win the national championship. You're getting no value with Georgia, especially because Georgia would have to beat Ole Miss for a second time. They would have to beat potentially, again, if it holds serves, they would have to beat Ohio State. Then they would have to go to the championship game and beat potentially Indiana. Okay, so I'm only getting 5 to 1 for that, beating Ole Miss for a second time, second-ranked Ohio State, and first-ranked Indiana, and you're giving me 5 or 6 to 1? Get the hell out of here. I'm not taking that. If you're a Georgia fan, fine. Or if you have some, if you're just in one of those situations where you've been on Georgia all season, whatever, then I can get that. But anyway, I want to make sure. Let me pop this out because I want to make sure I'm not missing any of Gary's. Okay, good. Just want to make sure my communication with Gary is not off, just in case he could still make it here. All right, let's pop this back up. Okay, so that's what I would do. And right now, I'm putting my bracket together for one of those contests. My bracket is going to look like, again, I'm going with Oregon, Ole Miss. No surprises there. And I'm taking Texas Tech, and I'm taking Oklahoma. And I'm seriously considering taking Oklahoma against Indiana. I really am. And the reason is because it's. I always feel like when you're going up against one of these top teams, undefeated, hasn't played in a playoff before. Look, it happened to Oregon last year. What was Oregon? Let me see. Where is Oregon? Get my trusted Mark Lawrence playbook guide. It's always handy for anything that I need. So let's see. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Okay, so Oregon goes into the playoff game after their win against Penn State in the Big Ten championship game undefeated. And this is a team that even though they they're always top 20, top 10, certain years better than others, that sort of thing. They've been a winning team for as long as Chip Kelly's turned the program around. I mean, under Bellotti, they were a good team, good program, but Chip Kelly really put a stamp on them. And it was kind of like the new age of college football where things were really starting to heat up with the media and just everybody was into college football more. Chip Kelly was there. And of course, he had the unique way that he ran his offense, 5 seconds between every play, that sort of deal. So Oregon's team last year, there was the belief this is their team. They've got the veterans, including Dylan Gabriel. Look at the players that are going to be NFL draft picks, the top picks going into 2025. And this is the team. And they go right into the playoffs as the top-ranked team and lose. Matter of fact, let me see. I'm going to take a look at the bracket. Where is it? Let me go ahead and pop up 2024 college football playoff bracket. Okay, let me see. Do they have that here? Let's see. This is it. Okay, can I pop that up? No, they're not allowing me to do that. So let me just go with the ESPN one. Okay. I know it's a little big, but I don't want to waste any more of your time on this. Okay. So there's the championship. What are you doing? I hate when they move it from one monitor to the next, they change everything. So that's why I've got to find the right one. Because I want to show you. Let me see. Can I do this? Yeah. Yes. Let's do that. All right. See wait, where is it? There it is. Okay. So as you see here, this is the way it was last year. And I think it's important to take a look, just for an example of how things early on in round one. And as you can see, last year in the first round, there were no close games. The closest game was the Texas-Clemson game. Texas then kind of, really took over. But remember, Clemson had like all their running backs were banged up. Everybody thought this was going to be an easy one, and it wasn't. It was a close game until late, and Texas had like 2 or 3 scores, that kind of thing, broke things open. Anyway, the bottom line is the whole first round last year were blowouts. Does that mean we're going to have blowouts again? Are we looking at this a little bit different than we should? I don't know. I don't think so, because I don't see how either Miami or Texas A&M is a blowout. So I don't really see how Alabama, Oklahoma is a blowout either. Now, naturally, you would think if there were blowouts, the home team is going to be the team that is going to have the edge, and that would probably be the case this time around as well, because all 4 teams, as you can see, were the home teams, and they did blow out all of their opponents. I'm not sure if it was. I don't know if all of them. I don't know if it was 4-0 straight up ATS. Check out Mark Lawrence and his bowl guide. It's already out, so you can purchase that at playbooksports.com. And he goes from the first bowl game all the way through to the Hawaii Bowl. And then bowl guide 2 will be after that. And you can't really put a bowl guide together at this point because there's too many changes going on. Gary. I can come on now, but don't have the link. Emailed it. Okay, so Gary's coming on. All right, so then here it is. Here's the Oregon-Ohio State Rose Bowl situation. And you know where Indiana's playing, right? The Rose Bowl. And what happened to Oregon? They got demolished from the beginning to the end. They were never in it. Meanwhile, this was a great game, as we know. Arizona State actually should have won the game. That was when Arizona State decided when it was 4th down, what was it, 4th and 10 or something like that for Texas, or 4th and 15, and they decided to blitz. The stupidest defensive call I think I've ever seen in a tight spot in my entire life in college football. And they got beat for the blitz, of course, and Texas went on to win. And then he had the Notre Dame win against Georgia, and Notre Dame was definitely the better team, and Penn State was clearly the better team against Boise State. So really, when you look at it, and look, Notre Dame, remember, now Georgia, see, this is the other thing with Georgia, and this is the reason why I look at this situation, and even though I like them and think they're better equipped this year, the reason is because they had the whole injury situation, and Stockton was coming in really green, so it wasn't really fair to grade Georgia back then. But look, they were the second seed, and they were really never in it. The Notre Dame's defense just did not allow this young kid at the time to really make it a game. So when you looked at it, you did have one upset. Arizona State probably should have won. A second upset. You had the seed upset. I'm not sure. I don't remember what the line was in that game. And you had no upset there. So you did have upsets in the second round, but that was not the case in the first round. So I think it'll be different, though. Again, I think the Alabama-Oklahoma game, I see no reason to think that won't be close, just like the – so I think both on a group of 5 games, I think, should be competitive. And clearly, again, the best game is the A&M Miami game. But my point is that Indiana is vulnerable because Oregon was a better team last year than this year's Indiana. And they got walloped. Now, maybe the one thing that might have worked against Oregon last year is they were trying to beat Ohio State for the second time. All right. So again, just like I'm saying, with Georgia having to beat Ole Miss for a second time, Oklahoma is trying to beat Alabama for a second time. It's not easy to do. So mark that down. But for Indiana, that's why I was saying when I was going over, okay, these are going to be my picks. That's why I was saying I might go with Oklahoma. I might. It's going to. I know I have to do it before these games start. And the other reason why I'm thinking of possibly doing it is just because I know not many people are going to do it. And so my bracket might, work out contest wise, but I truly believe that game could be really close. So I have more faith in Oklahoma than Alabama, even though I think if Alabama gets the win, then all the way they play down the stretch, the blowout in the SEC championship game, the talk that Alabama doesn't deserve to be there. Let me make sure. Okay, so trying to make sure Gary's coming in here. So all of that will be wiped out if Alabama can win that first playoff game. And now it's like, hey, it's a new season. Let's go. And who knows? I don't know whether or not Kalen DeBoer and all this talk about, is he going to stay at Alabama? I don't know whether or not that affected Alabama. I don't know. But now it's pretty obvious he's not going anywhere. So at this, I guess some people might still think about the Michigan job. Anyway, so if they can do that, then yeah, I think Alabama, because if the Alabama team from 6 weeks ago can show up in the Indiana game, if they beat Oklahoma, then we've got ourselves a game. So look, it would not surprise me at all if both first and second seeds get wiped out in their first matchup of the playoffs. Because look, remember here, first seed out, second seed out. I know Boise State wasn't a realistic third seed, but anyway, you get the point. So the top 2 seeds last year in the playoffs out in their first round matchup in the quarterfinals. And I could definitely see that happening with the Miami, Texas A&M winner, more so than Alabama or Oklahoma beating Indiana, because again, that's how strongly I feel about Miami and Texas A&M. Okay, and then so as far as the rest, even the Ole Miss Georgia matchup, that's another thing that I'm looking at. Just like Alabama, Oklahoma, I'd like to see what happens in the game. And then when we talk about it after the game in a couple of weeks, obviously I'll be able to give you a more definitive, because I'm not going to stick with my bracket just to stick with it. A lot's going to change depending on how those games look in the first round. But if Ole Miss looks really good against Tulane, and it looks like hey, we're taking this seriously. Yes, Kiffin was important, but it's the players that win and blah, blah, blah. And, it's us against the world. Like I said, that happens, then I would feel a lot better if I did take Ole Miss to upset Georgia with the bracket. So that's something I'm still considering, just like Oklahoma. And I'll just be honest with you, as Miami fans, I am taking Texas A&M. And my bracket would then look Texas A&M beating Ohio State, then Texas A&M more than likely beating Georgia. And then I would have, again, I'm not sure if I'm going Indiana, Oklahoma. I might go Oklahoma, but I'm taking Texas Tech, and I'm taking Texas Tech and Texas A&M in the championship game. And I know that sounds really far-fetched, and I get that. But I look, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I believe this is a wide open playoffs. I don't think there's any value in going with 2-1 teams like Indiana, Ohio State, or a 5-1 team like Georgia. And because of that, I would much rather, not only that, but again, I just think that the Big Ten is a little bit down this year. I don't think Ohio State or Indiana played very tough schedules this year. Like they didn't have these murderous opponents, like 3 or 4, like really tough. Like it wasn't like Indiana. Yeah, they had to go to Oregon. I get that. But Indiana, like for instance, they didn't have to play Ohio State in the regular season. They didn't have to play. They didn't have to go to Washington, which could have been tough. They didn't have to play USC. Say that could have been on the road. They didn't have to play Michigan. Yes, they played Penn State, but Penn State wasn't the real Penn State we thought that they were going to be when the season began. And for Ohio State, they had that really tough first game, week 1 against Texas, which was really, hey, look, unlike Indiana, Ohio State schedules tough non-conference opponents to begin the season. So I give them credit for that. But everybody knows when they watch that game that was just an ugly game. And it's just, probably proves that these two, unfortunately, it's bad for us fans, but that you shouldn't have these matchups in the non-conference early part of the season because it doesn't do you any good. Anyway, outside of the Texas game, who did Ohio State played? Well, okay, they played Michigan, and we all know where Michigan is as a team this season. Not really all that good compared to the way their record looked. Same thing, Washington. All right, decently tough opponent on the road, and Illinois on the road, and okay, that's it. They didn't play anybody. So Ohio State and Indiana have not been battle tested. And then they played each other. And while it was a really close game, I'm sorry, but it was not aesthetically appealing to me. I didn't go, wow, do these two teams look head and above better than the rest of the country? Not that looking at the Georgia-Alabama game made me change my mind either. It's like both biggest championship games of the playoffs of the end of the regular season championship, overall, they were underwhelming. And yes, you have to have a good defense. There's no question about it, but that's the thing. And as a matter of fact, I even brought this up about a few weeks ago, just to remind my viewers that, remember, when you're making these predictions in the playoffs, defense is what's going to win in the playoffs and in the big games. It's going to be, especially this year more than ever, and we saw it in those 2 championship games. It was the defense that won. None of the offenses looked very good at all. I don't care what anybody says about Mendoza, and he solidified his Heisman with the win against Ohio State. Come on. Anybody think that was a really good game and performance from a quarterback in a championship game? That was just, okay, he did what he was supposed to do, and okay, great. I mean, what am I supposed to do? Pat him on the back for doing what he's supposed to do? But he didn't have any, like, Heisman moments. He didn't do what he did in the Penn State game, which was clearly the best drive of the entire season for any of these teams. So when you look at these games, these national championship games, you go, all right, well, defense definitely won out. The offenses look like they can get, pretty much, the right word is they can pretty much I can't even think of the right word. I'm trying to think of this is what sucks. I don't have the vocabulary I need to have, but I mean, I have the word, but I just can't get, spit it out. But the fact of the matter is that if you can limit the offense the way that these defenses did in the big championship games, my point is that I don't think that's like an anomaly. I just think that that's what we're going to see now. And that means that I think you're going to see that from Texas Tech. Texas Tech is an excellent defense as well. They've got one of the best defenses in the country. Indiana's got a really good defense. Georgia, Ohio State, all of that. What I like about Miami, Texas A&M especially, is the fact that both of those teams also have good enough defenders. They may not be considered, they may not be looked at like the top 4 teams in college football with their defenses, but there's really good defenders on their teams. And we know that from Miami fans out there. You know how good some of these players are. But what I also like about Miami and Texas A&M is that they can also score. They have weapons on offense. Again, Miami's got an experienced quarterback, Texas, and a hell of a freshman receiver. Texas A&M, they've got running backs, they've got receivers, they've got a really young, dynamic quarterback. And what I like about Miami and Texas A&M too, they have they go into the playoffs as the underdog. They're not good enough. There's the pressure they don't have to worry about, all that kind of stuff. And that is definitely going to be a big advantage, I believe. In a tournament like this, that again is going to be wide open. So let me see. I have no idea why all of a sudden I'm not seeing Gary again. Let me see if I could. Where did I send him the link? Let's see. Here it is. Let's see. Where did I put it? All right. There it is. Okay. Now, as far as the schedule, the rest of the week, I will be doing the bowl preview. I'm going to try to do it tomorrow. And what we're going to do with the bowl preview is, and I think this is the most important thing with the bowl preview, and that is go over the updated coaching changes, how important it is, which coaches are going to be there, which coaches are not going to be there. Obviously, the opt-outs. You're not going to have that issue in the playoff games. Everybody's playing in playoff games. And even the coaches that are going to move on and that accepted head coaching jobs, the coordinators, you got both of them on A&M sidelines, but they will be coaching in the playoffs. But I'll be going over all of that to let you know. And that'll be the first bowl preview tomorrow. And then hopefully next week we'll do another one because scheduling wise, a lot of these games that are going on in a week or two, these players will wait until a few days before the game and then announce that they're not going to be playing. So we have to update all that. Okay, so we finally were able to hook up with Gary. So let's get him in here and talk some Miami Hurricane football. How's it going, Gary?
Going good. How you doing, Greg? Sorry for the mix-up. We were on different channels there momentarily, I guess.
That's okay. Again, I let everybody know you had a very important conference call with the program earlier today.
Well, I actually did, but I wasn't. I just didn't realize you were doing a live show. So
that's okay.
But I'm glad I made it. All good.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's the fun now of this time of year. That even if you can't make it scheduled, we have so much to talk about, which is what I was able to go through for the past half hour. And I'll talk more about that tomorrow on the bowl special. But let's talk Miami Hurricanes football, Gary, because as I was saying to the viewers, and again, this is one of the main reasons that I wanted to have you on. I already had Olin Buchanan on to talk about the Texas A&M side, that I really feel that the winner of this game has a legitimate chance to run the table and win a championship. What do you think about Miami's side, and what does Miami have to do in order to accomplish that type of a goal?
They got to coach well, Greg. Miami's built for this playoff, and they're able to generate offense in multiple ways, and their defense has come miles this season. They got, they got to coach the game, and they have to put themselves in the right situation. The biggest thing that with Miami is, Miami can't beat Miami. Miami has a habit of beating Miami and just is finding ways to get in its own way. And it happened a little bit in the middle of this season. And they've been playing very good football the last month. To me, the style of football that they played in the last month, which I was absolutely all in on and in favor of, does that now work in the playoffs? It's not a lot different than basketball, where when you get into the NCAA tournament, teams that were run and gun the whole year suddenly now got to be able to survive in half court offense and execute and things like that. And I don't think this 12-team playoff is that different from that. In Miami's case on Saturday, they're going into a hostile environment at Texas A&M. They're playing a team that gets after it on defense. They do a great job rushing the passer. And Miami's going to have to figure out what is the best way for us to attack that. And it is the best way to attack that necessarily what we have thrived with in the last month, because they did take on an entirely new look offensively in the middle of the season, and it's worked. It's been great. But, is it right for a hostile game on the road in a playoff pressure situation? You only get one shot at this, and that's what they have to decide, and then they have to do it with conviction. I could see it going in either direction, quite honestly. I see Texas A&M having a very tough time preparing for this game because of the flexibility that Miami has on offense with its running game and its passing game. And I think it's maybe the most intriguing game of the first week.
Oh, I don't think I completely agree. This is the one game that is, if you were going to pick one game to watch, this has to be it. I don't think there's any question that ratings wise, it should be. I think the only reason Alabama, Oklahoma might get the most ratings is just tradition. That's about it. But I expect this to be the best game, the most competitive game, the most exciting game. So a couple of things I want to ask you. Okay, so a lot of the talk about whether everybody wants to go back to, if it was Miami, Notre Dame, and just for the record, just so you know, I thought Miami and Notre Dame should have both been in. Alabama should not have made it. So, but, if it was, obviously it was between Miami and Notre Dame. Everybody talks about, okay, Miami beat Notre Dame. But clearly, one of the reasons why this matchup, head-to-head thing, I don't think is just so easy to decipher is the fact that time changes. And just like you said, Miami's offense changed. Certain teams get better, they get worse as the season goes on. So how has Miami, in your eyes, how have they looked differently from those first big games of the beginning, the first few weeks of the regular season, including the Notre Dame win, compared to when they were losing games in the middle of the season to teams they probably shouldn't have lost to? What was the difference between those games and the games that they lost?
All right. Well, first of all, with all respects for the fact that this is your show, I'm going to totally disagree with you. I think head-to-head matters, whether it's the first game of the year or the last game of the year. And anybody that watched that Miami-Notre Dame game saw that it really, even though it was a 3-point game, that Miami was more dominant in that. And it was, typical Miami fashion in the first half of the season, in that it would get early leads, go into a little bit of a shell, get more conservative, and the other team would come back and it would be not enough. And we saw it against Notre Dame. We saw it against Florida. We saw it against FSU on steroids when FSU outgained them 175-15 in the fourth quarter and outscored them 19-0 in the fourth quarter when Miami got tight offensively and got too conservative and wasn't making plays. And when they do that, they get very station to station, and then you're in third down a lot. And if you're in third down a lot, if you're great, you're going to only convert 6 out of 10 of them, and if you're on 2 or 3 third down situations in a drive, the percentages aren't in your favor to score a lot of points. And to me, that's what they were running into. And the second half of the year, they started opening up a little bit more on offense. They made Malachi Toney a big focal point. started throwing trick plays into the equation, the wildcat into the equation, and stopped running up the middle almost exclusively. And it has worked very well. It has brought a lot of excitement to the team. You could see it on the sidelines. There's a lot more juice on the sidelines. And it has made Miami kind of become the team that it could have been all along, that it was at times in those early games during the season, but not consistent.
And when did that change? Did that change after the loss to Louisville?
After the loss to SMU.
SMU. Okay. And that loss to SMU, again, that was like one of those losses that sort of like I remember as a Jet fan. I don't know if you remember, probably not, but I remember the Jets going to Cleveland in the wild card playoff game. Or it was the second round, chance to be in the championship, big lead against the Browns. I think they had a 2-score lead, 4th down for the Browns, incomplete pass. Jets about to take over the ball with about 5 minutes to go, and they called roughing the passer on Mark Gastineau against Bernie Kosar to keep the drive alive. And Miami went on to win the game and break all Jet fans' hearts. That's the type of game it seemed like it was for Miami. That should have been a win. The game was over, and they had a bad play that resulted in a penalty that had nothing to do with the play, and they lost the game because of that. And then we wouldn't even be having these discussions.
But Greg, the problem wasn't that the officials made 2 or 3 just horrendous game-changing calls that they did that went against Miami and contributed to the result. The problem was that they were in the situation where those bad calls by officials could impact the final outcome. And that was a byproduct of just not scoring enough points and
not putting the team away. Yeah.
And not putting teams away. Yeah. And not hitting enough big plays, being too station to station. Their longest run from scrimmage this year has been 35 yards. And that's a team that leans on the running game a lot. And they only did that once. They were not explosive enough. They weren't scoring enough points. It was too station to station, too clock eating ball control. And they were going against, when you take the Louisville and SMU cases, good offensive coaches that know how to dial up plays at different times and that were just inching past them on the scoreboard.
So what concerns you the most then about this Texas A&M matchup, considering how explosive the Aggies offense can be both on the ground and through the air? What do you think Miami has to do? Is it just a matter of, hey, they got to win that game at the line of scrimmage with their stud players?
That's what I think. That
simple?
I think they got to run the football. I really do. I think they got to run the football. I think they got to stay away from turnovers, and then mix in the explosives somewhere in the equation there. I'm not saying go back to being too conservative.
Sure.
I'm talking about you got to be smart. You're going on the road. It's a tough place to play. A team that also has a lot of talent. And this is a brains schematic, to me, kind of game that coaching is going to be at a huge premium.
Yeah, both coaches, obviously, they're in the playoffs for the first time, and Texas A&M coming off their first loss of the season. So we'll see how they respond. And then what do you think then moving forward, if there was if you had to say who the MVP would be, let's say Miami has found themselves in the semis or the national championship game, who's the MVP of the team at that point?
At this point, you'd have to say Malachi Toney. He is absolutely just transformed the entire sideline with his excitement that he's brought to the game. And I would have to say Malachi Toney is the MVP, even over Ruben Bain.
And do you think that would be the case if they made the run? Would you say if they're going to continue to play at their best, then Toney's going to have to continue to be that guy? Or
he is, but he can't do it all by himself. They're going to be paying a lot of attention to him. If you're Texas A&M and you're watching a season's worth of Miami film, you're going to see we got to stop this Malachi Toney guy. They're going to double team him a lot. It's going to be harder for him, and it's going to take other things to win this game. And to me, the other things are the talent that Miami has at running back. They just need to use it better than they did the first half of the season when they were predominantly an A and B gap running team. They've had more success running outside. They got Gerard Pringle involved in the action, and that's been a huge plus for Miami. He brings a little bit more wiggle and speed to the equation. He hits the hole a little bit harder, and I think they're going to have to try to do some of that. But I think there's going to be times where they got to put Mark Fletcher back there and just try to physically beat the crap out of A&M, because Texas had 200 plus yards rushing against them. I mean, you can run the ball on A&M. If you're just dropping back too much and they're teeing off and bringing their blitz packages and stuff like that, it can get a lot tougher for you, especially with a quarterback in Carson Beck that has shown a propensity at times in his career to turn the ball over when under pressure. And something they got to be aware of going into this game.
Yeah, speaking of Beck, what part of Beck's game and the criticism to Beck, what part of that do you think is not warranted?
None of it. I mean, he's had a really good season, Greg. I mean, he really has. And the fact that he threw 4 interceptions, really 5, one was called off in the Louisville game, I think soured the entire thing for him and soured the way people look at him. But the other 11 games, he was pretty damn good. He had the late interception against SMU, but on that play, one of his lead key receivers got tackled in the back of the end zone, and the refs didn't call defensive holding or pass interference, and he ended up with one guy targeted who was basically covered, and it ended up getting intercepted. So, but he wasn't horrendous in that game, and he's been pretty good in most other ones. He's had a decent season, and I'm not sure people look at him like that because of how bad the Louisville game was.
Yeah, if there's a player out there as far as these, especially the quarterback position, that really does need to maybe redeem himself in a way, I think it's definitely because look, the injury occurred last year, and there's nothing you can do about that. And then, of course, and he didn't have the season last year a lot of people thought he was going to have anyway, which precipitated the move, I'm sure. And now that is something that we could see in a couple of weeks. Who knows? That could be exciting if we get a Miami-Georgia matchup. But for the most part, he's a veteran quarterback. He's been through the wars, and I think that could definitely be where Miami could have an advantage. Because again, whoever wins this game is going to win a big game and is going to have an opportunity to go in and play an Ohio State team that is definitely vulnerable. We're not talking about the Ohio State team from last year. They're a good team, but I think either one of these teams is capable of beating Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, no question. Miami's built to beat anybody. Like they should be able to play with. They shouldn't be walking out on the field against any of these teams in the playoff thinking we don't have a chance to win. It's a very well constructed team. It's got a lot of talent. It's very balanced offense and defense. And now they just got to go get it done. I mean, there's no excuses. I mean, they got to go out and get it done. And the coaches got to be on point, and the players got to be relaxed and not get too tight, not let the moment get too big, which that could happen. I mean,
sure.
Miami hasn't been in a game like this in 23 years. Okay. They haven't come close to being a game with this significance in 23 years. So, big thing. Don't let the moment get too big.
Yeah, and Texas A&M, even though they've played in some important games, this is also pretty much. I mean, as far as I recall, Texas A&M football, I don't think I've ever recalled Texas A&M football in a game bigger than this. And they're at home, which can be an advantage, but could also be a negative because there's a little bit more pressure, and we've seen that happen before, especially if you get down early. But again, that's why I think it's going to be a dynamic game. Bring up the players, especially on defense, because this is really where Miami, if they're going to win a national championship, I think this is where it's really going to have to be done. Everybody knows about Ruben Bain, could end up, as a top pick overall, or at least the first non-quarterback pick. And then you also have players like Moton and Messidor. I don't think there's a defensive line in football that has the talent that Miami does.
Yeah, they're very good up front. Messidor is the guy to me that really Ruben Bain's very good. Messidor is kind of like a guy that falls under the radar because of Ruben Bain, who's had a great season. And a guy that's really coming also is Ahmad Moton, defensive tackle. He's played really well the last month or so, and he's becoming a force as well. David Blaze should be back for this game. And then you've got Armando Blunt and Justin Scott and Marquise Lightfoot coming in off the bench. predominantly in passing situations. But, so you've got some decent quality there with those top 7 guys on the D line. And, the linebackers, Basaint, Popo Aguirre, Mo Torre, they're good players, but it's that defensive line that really makes it go in tandem with a very improved secondary that's going to have a challenge with a couple really good receivers.
Yeah. Yes, that Craver and Concepcion, and they got a couple other guys. Yes, that's they've got a lot of weapons. Who is the best player in the secondary for Miami? Do they have a clear-cut number 1 guy?
Jacoby Thomas has been really, really good, and so has Keontae Scott. He's been hurt, but he's trending towards being able to play. Those 2 guys coming out of the transfer portal have been everything for the Miami defense, just a massive, massive impact. And so I would go with those 2 guys.
Okay. Speaking of injuries, so Scott, that's definitely a big one to keep an eye on. Anybody else?
No, I mean, they're pretty healthy, Greg. I mean, they're not in bad shape. A couple guys, it's late in the season. Got a few guys that might have like turf toe and things like that, but no, they're in a decent place going into this game physically.
Olin said that one of the problems Texas A&M has had is the kicking game. And how Miami, do they have any issues or any anything on special teams that will be an edge for them? How is special teams going to be?
I think they're fine. They got a kicker that kicks every kickoff out of the end zone. That helps. They got one of the better punters in the country. He can move the ball around very effectively, and which allows them to slide their coverage in one direction or the other, depending on the call. So no, they're pretty solid on special teams. Like I said, it's a solid football team with depth and quality, and they just got to get it done in the X and O department, and they should be right there where they want to be.
A couple more questions before I let you go. One is, give me a player or players. You talked about how, because the moment can be really big for these young kids. So is there a player or players on the team that you think stand the best chance of use of, like, for you, is what you followed and you go, yeah, I don't think it's going to be too big a stage for that guy or that guy or 2. Those are the guys that I do not see them crumbling. I do not see where it's just too big of a stage for them. Give me a couple of guys that you think are the guys that you really feel confident could maybe even make a name for themselves.
Mark Fletcher is one that comes to mind. He seems to me very built for a game like this. I could see him having a big day.
Okay.
Gerard Pringle's a freshman, and hopefully, nerves don't become an issue with him. But he's just very capable of making a big impact in this game. I think you have to look at CJ Daniels as an older kid, very confident receiver, who could be a big part of the game plan. For this game. Defensively, I would say Mesidor, man. I mean, everyone's going to be watching Bain. I'm sure he's going to get a lot of attention from A&M's offensive line. But Mesidor, the team leader in sacks, to me, is a guy that could be very impactful in this game.
Yeah, and that's the fun too. So it's also fun for these kids because this is really the best opportunity, even better than the All-Star games and the Senior Bowl and all that. This is their opportunity to shine and to make money and to move up the draft boards. Last question: what do you got as far as a prediction? I believe Texas A&M right now is a 3.5-point favorite.
I'm going to go, at the expense of sounding like a homer, I'm going to go with Miami by a field goal. I think it'll be a game in the fourth quarter, and I think, Miami finds a way to win it.
All right, Gary. Well, I think, like I said, I'm going to be on the record. I think the winner of this game is going to beat Ohio State. And I think the winner of this game actually is going to be my pick to get to the championship game. That's how good I think these 2 teams are. It's going to benefit them. We'll see. I mean, obviously, we got to see how the game goes. It could be a close game, but it could be a sloppy close game, and then I'll change my mind after that. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I think we're going to get the best game out of these 2 teams. I think it'll be a lot of fun. For you covering the team, of course, we got links in the description of this video for canesport.com. What are you going to be doing? You're going to be doing some live coverage, streaming?
Oh, this week, yeah, we'll have our Cane Sport Live show tomorrow night at 8, and then we'll have our usual lineup of shows as the week goes forward, and leading up to Saturday.
And what do you do during the game?
Oh, we cover the game. We're at the game.
So you're basically constantly tweeting out or even more, or how does that work?
No, we do a significant amount of coverage after the game, with game stories, columns, interviews.
Okay. Awesome. All right, Gary. Well, hopefully, hey, look, the team wins. I look forward to bugging you again.
All right, Greg.
And I appreciate it. No, you got to run. So thanks for doing this.
Anytime, man.
All right, that's Gary Ferman, canesport.com. Again, links in the description of the video. And like I said, once again, just to put the point in there, to emphasize it, that I really do believe that the winner of this game is going to make the run to the championship game. Now, the question is, will they win the championship? I am going to... because I am going to put Texas Tech on the opposite side of the bracket. So I do believe that if Miami or Texas A&M were to get past Ohio State and Georgia, those two roadblocks, that they will be able to beat Texas Tech. So that's what I'm putting my money where my mouth is. Again, I wish that they weren't playing each other. Too bad it wasn't like Texas A&M against Tulane, that sort of thing. But it is what it is. And maybe this will be the best thing for these two teams, is to play each other first, to be that battle tested first, then to go right into Ohio State. And that's a team that's been sitting around for a few weeks, didn't play the week before. And I think that will be an advantage for Texas A&M or Miami. So if you want to, that's why they call it gambling. If you want to gamble a little bit like I am, then I think putting some money on Miami or Texas A&M to win the national championship would be worth it. Again, 25 to 1. That's what you're getting. We'll see how it works out. And like I said, look, when you put these brackets together before the tournament begins, you're just hoping that what you feel is going to happen, for what you're going to see in the first round games especially, that will come to pass. Even if you wind up picking all the right 4 teams, like I just said, maybe, like, for instance, let's say I took Miami to beat Texas A&M and then took Miami to beat Ohio State, because they have that. That's how they have the contests. Well, they'll say, well, they don't say the team. They just say the winner of Texas A&M, Miami. Do you pick them or do you pick Ohio State? And I'm going to pick the winner of this game. But what could happen is, I don't think will happen, but what could happen is, all of a sudden, the game is over on Saturday afternoon and it's 16-13 Miami, and there were 5 turnovers between both teams. And then I'm going, okay, well, I changed my mind on that one. So my contest is probably going to get all screwed up. But it's going to be a couple weeks later, and then you can change your mind and make your own predictions then, which we'll talk about in the next several weeks, leading up all the way to the championship game. And then what I was saying before Gary came on, again, the reason why I think it's really important, look, there's nothing you can do about the contest, except there are contests that will allow you to not make the picks until the game is played. So you can wait, but there are others that, you just have to throw it in there before the playoffs, before the bowl games and the playoffs begin. There's nothing you can do about it. And that's okay, because everybody's in the same predicament. But as far as the ones where you can wait, well, that makes it a lot easier. No question about it. And I'm not just talking about because you want to see what happens, especially just for the playoffs. You want to see how the games are going on, but not just that. But what I'm really going at is the bowl games, because right now, a lot of the opt-outs that are taking place in the bowl games are, even though you do have players that are like Arizona State's got a bunch of guys that aren't playing, and that bowl game is still not for a while. But the later you go in the bowl schedule, there's still like 8 games where you see no opt-outs. And I'm sorry, but there'll be opt-outs in those games. So the point is that's the reason why it's really good to take your time as best you can with these bowl games and wait for the opt-outs. It never used to be that case, but it's just the way it is right now. And I'm going to give you some examples of what we'll go over tomorrow. Let's see. Let me give you some examples because there are games coming up. Let's see. What is it? The 15th. Matter of fact, we're going to be doing this again. Like I said, the hope is we're doing this tomorrow. That's the best thing because Wednesday. Yeah, I mean, we might do it Wednesday, but I'm trying to do this tomorrow. So that's the 16th tomorrow. So that would be the Veterans Bowl. I don't know why the Veterans Bowl or the Military Bowl. I have no idea why you don't see Armed Forces teams in there, but whatever. So Troy and Jacksonville State. So here is an example. Troy's quarterback's out, Goose Crowder. He ain't playing. Keeping in mind that he missed most of the season anyway, came back, played a couple of games towards the end, started the championship game of the Sun Belt, and got injured in the game, re-injured himself. So the backup has done a decent job. He's done a decent job. So I don't look at it as a big loss, but it is a loss nonetheless. You're going to your backup quarterback. And the more important one is their number one running back is not playing. Tay Meadows out. So that's something. Now, Troy is still, I believe, about a 3-point favorite in the game. I don't know. Let me see if those odds have changed. And look, part of the putting this bowl thing together too is trying to get heads up as early as possible before these lines do change. And I think we're going to see that in some of these games. I think you'll see, especially it's interesting. You get to these games, like, look, the Troy line has already dropped now. It's been like 3 for a week ever since it came out. Now it's 1.5. We're 24 hours away from the game. So this is what happens. You get the closer you get to the games, more and more people start zeroing in on these games. And then the day of the game, when most of the rest of the money is, because you'll get that initial bump by the top handicappers of the world, like the Jim Feists, and they put their money in, and then there's the lull, and then the rest of the money usually comes in within 24 hours of the game, especially on game day, and that's why you could see something like this happen, where, oh, wait a second, the leading rusher's out, the starting quarterback's not there. So now you do have, there's the other thing to always keep in mind. You've got the Sun Belt against the Conference USA, and the Sun Belt is a much better conference than Conference USA. Conference USA is terrible. All right. So it's just not good. And you've got the 2 championship game runner-ups playing each other. So that's why Troy should have been a deserved favorite. And it's why I think Troy should still be, even though Tay Meadows is not playing. Let's keep in mind he was only a 700-yard rusher. So it's not like he's a 1,000-yard, 1,400-yard rusher. All right. So I'd still, and Jacksonville State's a completely different team at home, anywhere else. And now they're anywhere else. So I'd still go with Troy in this one. And then, in case we don't do the show until Wednesday, which again, I believe we will do it tomorrow, but in case we don't, it's possible. Let's say there's just not enough time in the day. Then you've got one of the more exciting, we do have 2 games on Wednesday, but we have one of the more exciting early matchups, Old Dominion, South Florida. And there you go. It's a cure ball. So that line dropped 2 points. Now, there are some big opt-outs here for both teams. As you should know by now, both starting quarterbacks are out. Neither one are playing. Colton Joseph not playing. So he's opted out. That means they're more than likely going to go to a freshman quarterback, and this freshman quarterback has only attempted 15 passes this year, and he's supposed to start the bowl game for South Florida. Hey, it worked out for Mestamaker last year, even though they did lose. So South Florida, not only is their coach gone to Auburn, and their interim is going to be the defensive line coach, but Byron Brown, gone, out, opted out. And I think everybody kind of gets a feeling of they know where he's going. It would be a surprise. It'd be a major surprise if he did not follow Golish to Auburn. That is a big loss because Brown, really, if you look at it, when you compare now Mestonmaker was the best quarterback in the conference. It's as an easy one, but Brown was definitely the second best. So that's a big loss for South Florida. And that means that a quarterback, a backup, now they have a senior. Okay, so that's the thing. You got a freshman for Old Dominion with only 15 career passes as the backup now starting the game. South Florida has a senior starting the game, and he threw 44 passes in the first 4 years at Tennessee and only threw 20 passes this year for South Florida. That's Gaston Moore. So right there, I'm saying, all right, well, you definitely have an edge with Old Dominion because Ronnie is a really good coach. He just signed an extension. Everything's still going good for, but I'm still kind of surprised about Colton Joseph, though. With Ronnie staying there, I would not be surprised if Joseph returns. Now, this might be one of the situations where Colton Joseph feels, let me see what's out there. And if I can get a deal with a Power 4 team, I'm taking it. I don't know if Colton Joseph is a Power 4 quarterback. So he might just wind up back at Old Dominion. I mean, I haven't talked to his agent. I haven't heard the gossip from Old Dominion. I'm just guessing because I've seen Colton Joseph. He's a nice little quarterback, but he's really more of a runner first, passer second. He only has a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. Nothing special, but he's a 1,000-yard rusher. So that's the deal with Colton Joseph. And he had some really good plays in the Indiana game to start the season, which is why I think there might be some Power 4 teams. Hey, did it against Power 4 team. We put Power 4 players around him. So you never know. Colton Joseph could end up. Now, look, he's not going to end up on a really good team, but he could end up in a Power 4 team. But anyway, that's a freshman quarterback starting for Old Dominion. Hennikel is his name, Quinn Hennikel, against South Florida's senior backup quarterback starting the game. The big difference is the coach. So no head coach for South Florida. You do get Ronnie staying at Old Dominion. Look, the line dropped here, as you see, from 5 to 3. I would still take South Florida, though. So, yeah, because right now I don't see any other opt-outs for South Florida. Both teams are opting out the quarterbacks, and that's it. So at this point, that means it's an even deal, even though I think it's an edge to South Florida because you have a senior versus a freshman. And even though Old Dominion's got the edge at coach, it's just one game. It's a bowl game. I get it, but it's just a game. We've seen plenty of situations where interim coaches have won bowl games and athletic directors have been stupid enough to give the job to the interim coach. The timing is different now, though, with the coaches, which is why it created the whole Lane Kiffin thing, created a firestorm with the time of the schedule, and you got to change that because you can't have that. It's just you need to know that the coaches are going to coach. It's sort of like NASCAR silly season, which drives me crazy as a fan, where drivers for one team are signing on to drive for another team in the next season when they're still driving the rest of the season with the same. So it's stupid, but that's the way it's done, and there's a reason for it. And they can't change that the way that they're structured in NASCAR right now, but college football can, and that's another one of these scheduling deals that they hope to fix. But yeah, not a game that I'd be jumping to the window with big cash to take South Florida, but I just think South Florida is clearly a better team in my mind, and it's just a matter now of seeing what happens there. Who's the better backup quarterback, really? And I think South Florida's got a lot more better talent around them outside of quarterback than Old Dominion as well. And then the 68 Ventures Bowl is the one later that night on Wednesday night. And I did not see any significant opt-outs, coaching changes, or anything like that in that one. I think Louisiana is probably the way to go. I think the whole Delaware story for them to go to a bowl, which is nice. Normally, if you're new to the FBS, you need to wait a year or two, whatever. because there were opt-outs and not enough winning teams, they allowed Delaware to play, which I think is good. Delaware's, a competitive. They were a competitive FCS team, which is why they made the switch to the FBS. But Louisiana, same thing. We got a better Louisiana team than they were in the beginning of the season when they lost their quarterback. They were able to pick up a quarterback who needed a little time. And as soon as he got acclimated with the team, Louisiana started to play better like they were expected to play early on in the season. And again, they have divisions. So they were in the division where Troy was. And still, I think Louisiana, from the Sun Belt, better team than Delaware, not only from the worst conference at Conference USA, but just moved up from the FCS. So I would go Louisiana in that one, and I would take South Florida. So I would take the two favorites there, and I would take all three favorites, really. So we'll see. I know Mark likes to poke fun at me for being always with the dogs, but yeah, that's it's not the case all the time. So that's it for the bowl games for tomorrow and Wednesday. We'll try to be on tomorrow. If we can't make it tomorrow, definitely Wednesday, no later than that. And I'm going to try to give you as much detailed information, like I said, on the coaching changes that are important. Is there anybody, because there are coaches that are not coaching, and it's up to just like South Florida, and it's up to the interim coach. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the opt-outs. We'll go over the lines, the ones that I think will change between now and next week, so you can take advantage of it. We'll see what looks like some good upsets, some dogs to look at as well, and then we'll do it all again. Injuries too, definitely injuries too, and then we'll move on and do it all again probably the next week. I'm going to go over all the games in this bowl preview video, but then we'll update things every week, including, of course, the playoffs, because there'll be the first playoff games coming up next week, starting on Friday night. So remember that. It's a Friday night playoff schedule. And then it moves on to, you've got the Miami game, of course, at noon. And that is followed by, what is the other games? There was a group of 5 games. I think it's like 5 and an 8:30 or something like that. I don't know where I put it all, but it's going to be back to back to back. It's going to be 3:30 and 7:30. So 12, 3:30. I don't know what there's no way the Tulane Ole Miss game is going to start at 3:30. Okay, because most college football games that start at 12 o'clock don't end until about 3:30 on average. Now you got a playoff game. So playoff games, I don't know what they were last year, but I would guess that, especially if it's a good game like we expect this one to be, I would say that's going to be close to a 4-hour game. Now, look, they might just start it anyway at 3:30. It's I don't know. I don't know if it's a different network though, but if I would think they'd want to wait till the first game is over, just delay. I'm sure they won't delay it an hour or two, but they might just say, okay, if we have to delay it a half hour, we'll let everybody know in advance, that sort of thing. And I could see that happening. So yeah. And then the next one would be 7. So if they don't have a delay, then, the 7:30 game is the late start, Oregon and James Madison. And then we'll also get up on Talk NFL when we do this. Actually, I'll do the bowl special, and then we'll probably, I don't know if we'll do a separate show or we'll do some NFL talk with the bowl show. And then we'll do that live, of course. And then we'll just split it up. And then it'll be available as a bowl only video on demand. It's looking good for Jim Feist coming back this week. So far, so good. That means he'll return to Wednesday in the weekly show at 3 o'clock Eastern at Dom DeMarco's. And then we'll be back with Jim, Andy, Mark, Playbook ATS podcast on Thursday, and then Jim, Mark, and myself on Friday's show to end the week. So another one of these weeks. It's still football season, but we've got, it's going to be, hopefully, it's going to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday football coverage here on Proline TV, part of the Our Lads Football Network. So check out the links to the video, to this video, where you can check out all sorts of cool stuff, including how to follow Gary Ferman at Kane Sport and much more. So I'm out of here. Again, I want to thank Gary Ferman. I know he had a busy day today. He's going to continue to have a busy go at it, especially if this team makes a run, like I believe they can if they can get past Texas A&M. So thanks for tuning in once again here to Proline TV, and we'll see you next time, and hopefully that's tomorrow.